Paul Heyman explains why he can't close the door on Brock Lesnar returning to the UFC. When Brock Lesnar's return to the UFC was announced last year, it came with shock and awe from an audience that believed the former heavyweight champion was done with mixed martial arts for good. A long battle with diverticulitis that robbed Lesnar of prime years during his run with the UFC, coupled with a pair of losses to Cain, Velasquez and Alistair, Overeem, seemed to close the chapter on him ever returning to the Octagon. Lesnar somehow managed to storm back nearly 5 years after his last fight to put on a lopsided performance against former title challenger Mark Hunt at UFC 200, but soon after the roof caved in on him. Lesnar was flagged for use of a banned substance and suddenly his win was overturned to a no contest and he faced a 1-year suspension for the infraction. Shortly thereafter, Lesnar notified the UFC that he was once again retiring from the sport while he focused on his career in professional wrestling with WWE. While it's been less than a year since Lesnar last stepped into the Octagon, his most recent retirement once again left many believing that was the final nail in the coffin for his UFC career. Paul Heyman, who has been one of Lesnar's closest friends for more than a decade, can't say for certain if the former heavyweight champion will ever fight again, but given his competitive nature, especially when staring down what seem like insurmountable odds, it's never good to close the door and say it will never happen again. Brock is in his heart a trained competitor. Now whether that means he's going to look at this environment and say, you know what, I didn't make the Vikings team in 2004 but I bet in 2017 I can, and just because I can I'm going to just to show people that I want to, and I take it. Because when we named him the Conqueror, that's what he is. He's a legit conqueror. You put a task before him and he conquers it, Heyman told the Fight Society podcast this week. I really can't tell you that it's out of the realm of possibility of Brock Lesnar to say I'm taking a few months off from WWE, I want to see how many home runs I can hit for the Minnesota Twins. People may laugh at that, but it's the same people that laughed at him in 2004 when he went for the Vikings camp and he was the last person cut, and that's with a broken jaw, a fractured pelvis and diverticulitis. I think what's next for Brock Lesnar besides what's happening in WWE? Could it be UFC? Could it be another sport? I think it's something he's going to look at and say, I bet no one thinks I can do that, alright, I'm going to conquer that. Heyman believes what motivates Lesnar to do the impossible is the same thing that's driving UFC lightweight champion Conor McGregor to go after Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match so many people are saying he can't win. McGregor has certainly defied the odds before, but facing a 49-0 boxer who is regarded as one of the greatest of all time is a tall task for anybody, much less a mixed martial artist who has never competed professionally in that sport. It's the same thing that's motivating Conor McGregor into wanting to fight Floyd Mayweather, Heyman explained. Because admittedly I would say, I'd have to say that a great deal of that is obviously the allure of the enormous payday, but a lot of it also has to be the lure of people think I can't take this guy and I can take this guy. Lesnar already seemingly did the impossible when he came to the UFC with one fight under his belt, and just 9 months later he was the heavyweight champion of the world. Now that he's approaching his 40th birthday, it might appear that time is dwindling down for another fight in the UFC, but Heyman cautions anybody from counting Lesnar out. Making the impossible seem possible is what Lesnar does best, and proving people wrong by making another run in the UFC could still be a driving factor for him one day in the future.